You should be able to share your screen, but Brianna, thanks for being here. And yeah, please take it away.
All right, well, thanks for having me. Yeah, a little bit about myself, Brianna Dunbar-DeMike. I'm the founder at Baptisto. I'm also do interim and fractional leadership on the side. My company is a sales and marketing enablement company. We help just a lot of variety, but mostly mid-market companies in terms of helping improve their sales, whether that's creating playbooks, optimizing their sequence content for their outbound or inbound, lead routing, consolidating technology, et cetera. So lots of stuff there. And then anyone that was in my networking group recently, I've been dabbling in land flipping. So creating opportunities for land flipping, that's a whole nother side of me, but it's been really fun. But yeah, most of all, it's just starting companies, and it all started with starting myself as a brand. And so that's what we're here to talk about today, is how to create your digital footprint, which is a hot topic. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about why it's important to have personal branding and what personal branding means. What are some effective strategies to optimize your online presence? Methodologies between creating content and techniques for building this. And I put in some AI as well, because I'm only one person. There's only 24 hours in a day. And when you have so many types of content that you're putting out and you have your own brand, it can become really burdensome. And so I figured out how to optimize myself through AI. So let's go ahead and get started. Everyone is a brand. And I think if you guys look at these pictures, you'll probably recognize all three of these folks. When
Brianna,
you
you're not sharing your screen.
Oh, really? Oh, that's weird.
The screen is there, but the slides were not advancing.
Okay, let's try again. Can you see that picture now? Okay. All right. So yeah, when we think about these people, you've never met them, right? But you know them. You recognize them through the news outlets. You recognize them through media, and you have a perception of each of these people, and it might be different depending on who you are or the type of person you are. But at the end of the day, you know who they are. And everyone is that brand, including me and you. And what's the first thing that we do when we hear about a new brand or a person? We, one, ask a friend. Two, we go to Google or whatever our search engine is, and we look them up to understand who we're dealing with. How many times have you gotten someone a resume where you're like, wow, this person is really qualified. They're really interesting. What's the first thing you do? You look them up, you Google them. And those results, those SERP listings, it has a way to build and impress on people before they even get to have a conversation with you. And that is why digital presence and your digital brand is so important, because nowadays, we're not waiting to have this kind of connection to hear my voice, to see what kind of person I am. You're creating a perception of me through online first, whether that's through my LinkedIn, Google, Yelp, Amazon reviews, my website, my blog. There's so many things, but every step leaves that impression. And so this is a highlight about me in terms of how I started my own brand. My background through content, through sales, is building other brands for over a decade. I worked and redid all of Walmart's website. I created all of eBay's content through my businesses, and I created their brand voice. I revamped all of Williams-Sonoma's subsidiary brands. And I got to the point where I said, God, I'm so tired of building everyone else a brand and then I just get paid, but then that's it. I want to build myself a brand. And so I started with my Instagram. And with my Instagram, I got it all the way up to almost 80,000 followers. And I said, oh, geez, okay, now that's cool. I'm making money there, but what else can I do? I started to say, okay, I started to say, let me start playing with LinkedIn. Let me do a podcast. Let me do another podcast. Let me do TikTok. And I started to create this persona about myself, and it allowed me to tell my story of who I am. And no matter where you go, on Google, if you type it in, all the SERPs, they're all going to come up about me. They're all going to have a very similar feel because I've created my brand about myself. And so how did I do this? I created consistency through all of the platforms. I reinforced the benefits and my points and my point of views. And no matter where my followers or my audience goes, they have that same impression of me because I am very consistent and dependable on who I am and the things I talk about. And I think if you were to go to my LinkedIn right now, then you could summarize me in 2 sentences of who I am. And then you go to my Instagram, you're going to get that same summarization versus my podcast. It's all very branded to me, and it's that consistent content. And because of that, it allows people to trust me and stay and join on all of my different platforms that I have. Okay. So why is this important? One, you have this global reach. Instead of being, and I don't really like this word, influencer, but instead of influencing your community and having that, that impact in person, you're now expanding it to be 24/7 open to anybody and everybody. You get to tell your story your way. You can be different from your competitors. And I say competitors, and some people are like, well, I don't really run a business. What do I care? Every time you show up to an interview, every time you show up to apply to a speaking event, every time you put in some kind of interest to do a speaking engagement like this, you are competing against other people, and people are going to look at you and those other options and say, how are you different? This allows you the opportunity to say how you are different. It also allows you to interact and engage with potential customers, gather feedback about yourself as well, and then ultimately test, learn, and optimize. So I say this because this is really important. I think when people think branding or think influencer, they automatically think Instagram. And so did I. So 3 years ago, I started my Instagram and I started doing that. And then it got to a point where 2 years ago, I said, oh, I'm really liking Instagram, but I need to expand. People can't just search my Instagram and see all the flooding pictures of all my cute kids. They have to understand my point of views as well. So I started my podcast, and my podcast is called Badass Basic Bitch. And my first year, I did over 1 million downloads on my podcast because I found topics and niches that were not being fulfilled for women who wanted to hear about other women doing badass things that wasn't, your Sheryl Sandbergs of the world. So I started to diversify. And then a year ago, I said, hey, my LinkedIn is pretty sad. I think I had, 400 connections on LinkedIn. And I started posting on LinkedIn. And this is a post that I think is really important that I wanted to share with you guys, is that on Instagram and my podcast, I have given this story so many times. I have talking about how I started my own company and I sold it, and it was all because I didn't get a certain raise. And it's a really motivating, really motivating story. And I've shared it on Instagram and podcast. And, it was like, meh, it did great. Some people are like, awesome job. But after I crafted it and really understood that, hey, maybe LinkedIn is the audience for this type of story. I mean, over 3.7 million impressions this post got that never performed as nearly as well on any of my other platforms. It got me over 6,000 followers instantly. And I contribute all of that to the fact that I tested it on other platforms. I curated it to that audience. And I don't think the followers would have came if they didn't see all of the other digital footprints that I had already as a brand when I shared this. And then the content then on forward is so true. Like anytime I get new followers, anytime I get new comments, it's because they're coming to that story. That's what's bringing them to my LinkedIn. But then they're seeing all of these other assets and digital footprints that I have, where it's giving them that trust and authoritative voice. And then they gain followers here on LinkedIn. So my point to share this is it's really important. It's easy to repurpose content across channels, but always prioritize that quality over quantity. And I think a lot of people are like, just keep posting, post daily, post 1 million photos, post 1 million videos. But I think that we really have to think about, who are we and what kind of person we want the audience to perceive us as. And that's how we have to post versus just pinging out as much possible content. So here are the channels. And I think it's important to be on all of these, no matter what your age, no matter what your gender, no matter what you do. I know that the majority of the folks here are probably just on LinkedIn. Maybe they have a personal hidden Instagram or Facebook or something. But I think it's so important because at the end of the day, if you are a business owner or if you are a seller, or even if you're just like, hey, I want to have this amazing career in 5 years from now, everybody is going to look at what you've digitally done and digitally do. And I work with a ton of CEOs on building their digital presence on LinkedIn, on their own podcast, even on their Instagram, because people want to buy from people. And even if you're selling, a sales stack solution offering, which someone was in our networking thing, if you are the CEO of that company and you are not spending every day talking about advice on why you should consolidate your sales tech or why you should look at certain RevOps technology or what have you, then people are going to be apprehensive about buying from you, because as a founder and as a CEO or C-level or seller, if you're not an authoritative voice, then why would they trust you? So that's why I think it's super important to get the most of it. So how do we do this? You can find your niche. Yeah, I found mine. Mine's all about empowering women in their career, in their personal life and whatever. I'm fully bought into this and I own it and I love it. And I think all of my followers love that as well. I always say this to my kids. I always say this to myself. I say this to anyone I'm mentoring: being you shouldn't be hard. And so as you represent yourself, whether that's on LinkedIn or Instagram, you shouldn't take an hour to write a post. You should just be you. And if it's hard to be you, then you're not being who you actually are. And your audience is going to know that. Understand who you compete with, see what they do. How do you make that different? How do you make that better? Engage with your followers. You should be answering all comments. I know it's hard. I do not do this, and I will hit myself every day for it. It's hard to answer every single comment, but look at the comments where they're taking the time to answer it and be engaging in that process with them. Engage with other people your audience follows. This is huge. And this is how I've actually gotten a lot of people on LinkedIn is I follow people who have a good following, and then on their posts, I will write comments. I will reshare and write comments on that if I don't have time to write my own content. And then I get a lot of new audience because they're already following person A, and now I'm being introduced as person B. They're seeing that and they come over because they like the content that I'm producing as well. So creating good/fantastic content. How do we do this? Again, stay in your lane. Don't be talking about everything all the time. Figure out your pillars and your channels, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. You want to educate, you want to be engaging, entertaining, you want to inspire, and just don't sell. That is the key point. It's so hard to tell a salesperson or a founder not to sell their solutions, but when you are talking about things, think about what your customers' pain points are, the personas of those folks, and the pain points, and then how you address those, but not through your own stuff, just your ideologies behind it. Okay, some awesome AI. I use AI for everything. Copy AI is such a powerful tool that can actually generate blog posts for you, social media captions for you. The people who said, I have no time to create content, it's gone because AI is here and it can create the content for you. And I'm not saying you just go copy paste and put that in, but you can look at that and customize it to feel like your voice and to represent you better. Copy AI, ChatGPT, Content Bot, those are all really great content creation tools. And it could be as super simple as going to ChatGPT and saying, hey, I'm a company, I sell fractional VP of sales to CEOs, mid-market companies. What do these CEOs care about? And then ChatGPT will tell you 10 things they care about. Okay, now write me content titles for all of those things. Give me 100 titles. Okay, here's 100 titles. There you go. That's what you write about for the next 100 days. It is super simple to create content nowadays. Other easy platforms, LinkedIn. Crystal knows how many people sell to buy, like how many people are sellers and they have some kind of solution that they sell to. Let's say you want to sell to me. Install Crystal Knows, go to my LinkedIn and have her read my profile. It will literally tell you, here's how you talk to Brianna. Here's how the type of email should be formatted. Here's what you should be saying. You should be direct. You should be this. You should talk to her about these pain points. And then that's how you can connect with people utilizing these types of AI for LinkedIn. Shield is a great one. It's an AI tool that analyzes and optimizes your LinkedIn posts. So if you're already doing this, it'll start saying, hey, I understand your word count. Here's where you get the most interactions. Here's the word count you should be using. Here's the emotional tone you should be using. Here's the sentiment analysis that you should be using. And then here's some headline ideas for future posts. It is super detailed in its proposals. And Instagram, these are a couple ones. I personally love Caption AI. It's really hard for me sometimes to write an Instagram caption because it's only 2 sentences and I just have a really hard time summarizing things in that type. So if you're into Instagram or hey, you want to share it on LinkedIn, but you don't know how to summarize it in 3 to 4 sentences, Caption AI is going to be a great tool for you and it's going to save you a ton of time. Podcasts. I have gotten so many leads through my podcast. I have my Badass Basic Bitch podcast. I recently launched a podcast called the RevOps Baddie, where all we talk about is revenue operations. And I have gotten more leads in my RevOps podcast than I probably have in my LinkedIn, my Instagram, anything, because there's not an industry leader talking about revenue operations. And now there is one, and I'm having guests on there talking about it. So people want to hear from me now, even though I don't view myself as a significant expert in RevOps, my guests are, and they're saying all of the things that my audience wants to hear. And now they want to work with me. So if you don't have a podcast, it might be a good idea to get one. And there are all of these AIs where literally you just have to get a guest to come and record it. And these AIs do everything. They transcribe it, they write you show notes, they create snippets of the video content on the podcast based on what they think is going to be the most interesting. They do everything for you. It all uses natural language processing to analyze the audio content and searchable transcripts, highlights, etc. And then last but not least, you have to plan. Don't just go to all these tools and start asking AI to do everything for you. Start to plan, organize your content pillars. The best way to do this, if you're not quite sure, is something that I say is start with regular features. Like Monday mood. What's your Monday mood? That's very Instagrammy, but maybe it's like Tuesday tip. I'm in RevOps or I'm in sales technology and how to consolidate it, whatever. Every Tuesday, I'm just going to give you a tip, and people start wanting that weekly tip, wanting that monthly feature. Other thing you can do is co-create with others, borrow from others, or recycle your own content like I did, where I'm like, I'm going to take all this stuff on Instagram and just make it digestible for my LinkedIn audience and start there. And then the things that matter, and this is the last one, then we'll open up to questions, is for social channels. It's not your follower count. Your follower count does not mean crap. What matters is the engagement, the likes, the comments, the shares, clicks, views, and your follower growth percentage. In emails, we got open rates, click-throughs, conversions, and websites. I think we all know the most important KPIs for websites, but yeah, that's it. I know that's a lot to digest in 10 to 15 minutes, but I'm happy to open up the floor to anyone that might have questions.
Brianna, that was awesome. Thanks for going through that. Yes, I would welcome questions. Looks like Eric put something in the chat around liking all the comments, but if you have a question or a comment you'd like to chat with Brianna about, just unmute yourself and jump in.
Jonathan?
Yeah, this is awesome. That was a great, very well prepared. My question is, so I often feel a division, and you kind of touched on this. I feel a division between who I am in my personal life and what I do in business.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just an example, like I meditate and I've done big retreats, and like that's a big part of my life, martial arts, and a lot of that, like wisdom, philosophy, like there's a lot going on there, right? And so I feel like LinkedIn is just boring. A lot of people talk, but I use it all the time. But it's just a lot of business speak, right? Like, here's 10 ways to improve your cold call cadence or something. And I'm like, how to tie in that personal aspect with what you're doing professionally. And you found a great niche of like, you know, these badass women doing badass stuff, telling their story. And then, by the way, I also do RevOps. Like, I'm just curious your thoughts on how do you guide someone through bridging the personal and the professional and using that across different media, especially LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to throw back a question at you. How do you integrate your mindset, mindfulness, meditation in your personal? How do you do that? Like, are you not mindful in your personal or professional? And then when you go home, you're like, I need to meditate. No, you're integrating that. And I think there's stories that you can say behind that. And I challenge you, maybe go to my LinkedIn and read some of my posts, because they are totally integrated. Some of my stuff gets really vulnerable about like, hey, when we seek validation from others, we're never going to be enough, right? Period. That was a post of mine. And then after that, I talked about like, this is exhausting. And as an employee, I don't want to constantly seek validation. And like, there are ways that you can say this. You can literally think about a time when you got off of a meeting and it was so horrible, so awful. You felt so much anxiety that you closed your eyes, you turned everything off, and you started to do the five senses meditation to regroup yourself. And then you went back to that next meeting. Share that content, because that ties you in from your personal and what you do professionally. So it's kind of like it's like a blog or a vlog in a sense, where you're giving real life scenarios.
It's a great example where you, just integrate it, and then to make it platform appropriate, but still just bring it all and just
totally. How many people have high anxiety when they have to cold call? Oh, so do I. But here's my tricks that I do when I make cold calls. I do 1, 2, and 3. When I do this, I notice that I have a better close rate for meetings, right? Like, there's professional and personal tied in together.
Oh, thank you.
Dave, do you want to give a little context to your question there?
Sure. Thanks, Taylor. I'm just curious, like, to what extent do you think about cultivating your audience so that your messages are getting to the right people, prospective customers, ideally. And LinkedIn is my particular interest. But I've wrestled with that, thinking about whether I need to go build an audience of a target market, or whether I need to start with content and essentially attract the audience. And your points about being authentic, by the way, like, are really hitting home. And so, like, I'm sensitive that maybe I've done things backwards.
Yeah, I think you can't be everything to everyone, period. No matter what, professionally or personally. And I've gotten some pretty nasty messages on LinkedIn. I mean, my headline is badass basic bitch. Come on. Like, of course I'm going to get nasty messages. And that's fine. Those people see themselves out. But what happens is when I'm talking about the unfair mental load that mothers hold for work and personal life, what's going to happen is my audience, who also feels that way, are going to engage and stay. and the audiences that are like, oh my God, this another woman complaining about the unfairness of having to bring in money and be a mom, blah, they're going to leave. But that's fine with me because I'm going to be who I am, and my audience will naturally grow. And those people who stick around are then going to share my content. And I'm using that as a personal example. I might also say, like, you should never hire a VP of sales. Never, as your first hire, should a VP of sales be your first hire. You should absolutely 1000% only hire fractional VP of sales at first. And here's why: X, Y, and Z. And the people who agree with me are going to reshare that, and more audience is going to come in. And people who don't agree with me are probably going to leave, and that's fine. So I think it's like two-tailored. The other thing I'll say is that every week you get to send 200 connections via LinkedIn. And if you're not doing that, you're doing a disservice to yourself. And you can go and search who you feel like who should be your audience. And then you can cultivate your audience to come while you're sharing content for them to stay. And I think that's where the most important thing to focus in on is.
Thank you.
That's awesome. We've got time for a few more questions. If anyone would like to unmute themselves and ask.
Brianna, you mentioned saving time with AI. Can you help us conceptualize what that means? Because right now, the idea of making content is a time sink, but I'm just curious what type of efficiencies you're seeing leveraging all those tools.
Yeah. I'm going to use ChatGPT as an example, because I think that's the easiest tool, and everyone knows what it is. It's very trending right now. You can go into ChatGPT. You can take a URL of a piece of content that you found really interesting, and you can put that URL in there and say, summarize this in 3 bullets, and it will. And then you can take those 3 bullets, you can go to your LinkedIn, you can take that URL and share it on LinkedIn and be like, here's the summarization in 3 bullets. Like, it doesn't get any more basic than that. Something that I'm doing as an example is, I have a podcast. We have a podcast. It can be very hard. At first it's very hard. I take that podcast, I use an AI, Otter AI, to transcribe it. I upload it, it transcribes. I take that transcription, I go to something like ChatGPT or Copy AI, and I just paste it in there, and I say, write me show notes, and it writes me show notes. And then I say, okay, now write me a LinkedIn post, and it writes me a LinkedIn post. And then I say, write me an Instagram about 150 characters, and then it writes me that. Now write me hashtags, and now it writes me that. And then I just have to be the one that goes and puts all that content on all of those places, on all of my different platforms. And it took me 10 minutes to do it. So that's just like an example of how I use it. Now, me personally, I go to those results and I fine tune them so it sounds like me, because I want it to be authentic. But at the very least, it's summarizing an hour-long conversation. And now I can add things that I remember, like, oh yeah, she talked about this, I really like that. Or I'm also going to say this about her because this was a cool thing. But at least the foundational content is ready for me to share.
Okay, that answers my question I had about how you use it and maintain consistency across all of the channels that you work with, so that your brand stays true to your voice. So
Exactly.
do you use this primarily for summarization and identifying titles? Sort of, I'm not saying this well. If you need to generate new original content yourself,
Yeah.
I don't think that the AI is quite to that level yet. But if you want to use it as a tool to process prepared, already written material, it seems to be suitable for that, right?
Yeah, so there are like Content Bot, for example, is a tool that helps you with content research and generation. So you can, it'll tell you trending keywords. It'll give you, headliners to think about because of those keywords. It takes that into consideration. So you can use that type of tool as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Mhm.
Some Brianna, this is fantastic. What I think if you've got some parting suggestions, that would be great. And then also if people, it looks like Hannah put in the chat your LinkedIn. If there's a better way for people to reach out to you if they have additional questions, can you share kind of your parting thoughts and how best the crew here can get in contact with you?
If anybody's interested, just DM me on LinkedIn. I can do another group setting where it's all about LinkedIn and tips, tricks, like obviously at no cost. I'm super passionate about creating your digital brand, especially on LinkedIn. And if anyone's interested, just connect with me, write me, hey, in Midday, you said that you would meet with me and do some additional training. Totally happy to do that and go over, like, share my screen step by step, how I'm creating content for a whole month and uploading it for the whole month and just setting it and forgetting it. There's so many awesome tools that you can use on LinkedIn that will auto connect with people, auto send them messages. It's called Phantom Buster, and I'm more than happy to meet with everyone for like an hour and just show you how I do it, because that's probably going to be the easiest. And then for anyone that's like, no, I'm not interested, I would just say my tip and trick of like what you should be doing when you leave here is really looking at your LinkedIn and comparing it to your competitors, people in your industry that might be applying for jobs similar to you or selling what you sell, and just take a look at, see how they are holding their own LinkedIn and how you may fall either behind or above what they're doing.
That is phenomenal. I am going to take you up on that offer.
Yeah, please do.
Very cool. Well, Brianna, thank you so much. This was fantastic. We'll share the recording out, and are you okay if we share the presentation as well, or
Yep.
is that all right? Okay. Well, thanks so much for your time, and I would suggest everybody reach out to Brianna and connect with her. Phenomenal job. Thank you so much, Brianna.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks all. We'll see you next week. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.